Stitchy friends, how have you all been? Today is Friday, April 23rd. It's about 11 o'clock in my neck of the woods. I hope you've all been well and that you've been stitching and making and creating all of the things. And I still do not understand why going in, now 2.5, not quite 2.5 years, why it is that whenever it comes to the beginning of my video, I always seem to have, it takes forever. It takes a lot of stops and starts. But hopefully this one goes okay. I think I've tried to start the video for the past 5 minutes, and there was a school bus that went by, and so Freddie was growling and barking, and yeah. So hopefully, if you're seeing this part of the video, I finally was able to get my video started and off to the right foot. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Olivia, and this is Pumpkin Hollow Quilts. This is a video podcast where I talk about my cross stitching and sometimes quilting. However, if you are not interested in seeing or hearing about the quilts, I show those a little later on in the video, and I let you know in plenty of time that they will be making an appearance, so that way you can go on to the next floss tube video. If you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. So the last 2 weeks have been fairly busy for me. The weather here has been absolutely gorgeous. We've had very warm weather, which is not typical for this time of the year. Over the weekend, it was almost 90, so that definitely was not something that we were used to or prepared for. But I've been doing a lot of gardening since the weather has been so nice and there's no threat of freezing temps for the foreseeable future. We just decided to go ahead and work in all the flower beds. So there's been a lot of work happening. And even today when I get done with this video, while hopefully it's percolating, I will be out finishing up the last 2 flower beds and then getting all of the pots ready, because it is supposed to rain for the next couple of days. And so we kind of want to get all that stuff done. But there's been a lot of hauling of shrubbery and plants that we lost during Ice-Mageddon. So there's been a lot of hauling and scooping and shoveling and digging, and it's been hard work, and I'm very tired. But we just have one more day to go, and then the gardening will be, well, the flower beds at least will be all done. And then once we get past this rain that's supposed to come in, then we'll probably work on planting some vegetables and things like that. But it's been a lot of fun, a lot of hot, sweaty work, but I know that my flower beds will look amazing. At least I hope it will. If I can't get any of these plants to grow, I'm probably gonna throw a big old temper tantrum, but hopefully I will. And the thought is that not necessarily this year, but next year, next summer, and everything will just kind of grow up and grow together, and you'll just have this color just everywhere. And that's kind of what I'm going for, is just like constantly blooming color of all different flowers and things like that. So I don't really know too much about, like flower beds and things like that, but I'm learning about the things that do grow here. And I also know of some of the plants that grow really well here in my dirt, but so it's just, I'm learning as I go, and I really hope, I watch a lot of gardening shows, so I'm really hoping that it's all gonna look amazing. So in my last video, I was not paying attention to, so when I'm recording these videos, I have my phone, I guess it would be face up towards me, so that way everything, when I go to upload it, everything is the right way. And my phone did this update, and the little timestamp that tells me how many minutes I've been talking was not on the display. And so I'm talking, and I go to hit the pause button and to start a new one, and then I ended up having these 2 big files, and they just did not want to upload. I just had a heck of a time getting them to upload, because I usually can go 10 minutes and then I have to hit the pause button and then start a new video. And then that way everything uploads really quickly and the video quality is really good and all of that. Well, the last time I did my video, during that long segment, I showed what I had gotten in the mail. And then at the time I was showing that, I got 2 phone calls, a text message, and then the first phone call was leaving a message. And so that little like 5-minute span of time, the video quality, and you couldn't hear the sound, the video quality was terrible. So I ended up having to cut it out. And so it was some stash enhancement that I had gotten and also some Happy Mail that I had gotten. So I wanted to make sure that I showed them because I did have to take them out of the other video because there would have been no way that you would have been able to hear what I was saying, and it was very fuzzy. It was the strangest thing. It was like my phone just didn't know what to do. It was recording a video, had 2 people calling, text message, it just had all this stuff happening at once, and I think I overwhelmed my phone. So I wanted to make sure that I showed them this video because I felt really bad that I had to cut it out of my last video. And so I've had it sitting waiting so I could share it in this one. So I got some Happy Mail. And this is from Michelle from Under the Woolen Willow. She is on Instagram as Under the Woolen Willow. And she also has an Etsy shop. And she's the one that makes those adorable little chenille strawberries, which if I would have had enough time, they would be right over here in this, right under this house. That's where both of them would have been. And they'll be there next time. But she makes those adorable little strawberries, as well as a lot of other amazing things. There is, right here is her sunflower that I bought from her last year. And I keep it out all year round because I love it. But anyway, she had contacted me because she'd been cleaning out her sewing room and she had some stuff she wanted to send me. And she sent me this wonderful card, handmade. She just does amazing, amazing work. She's so super talented. But she sent me these 2 little Happy Easter ornaments, which didn't quite make it on my tree because I took my tree down. I think, well, her package, she mailed it to me in plenty of time, but her package decided to circle the United States twice. And so by the time it finally got to me, it was after Easter, but I will put it with my Easter decorations and I will have it on my Easter tree next year. And she also sent me this Thimbleberries book, which when I was first learning how to quilt, my grandma was a big fan of Thimbleberries, and she has made a lot of their quilts over the years. But this quilt right here was the very first quilt I ever made. And I gave it away. I did it in Mary Englebright color, so it was like black and pink and like a lime green. If you've ever seen Mary Englebright, her colors, her palette's very bright, and I think Walmart used to sell it, and that's where I had bought them. But this was the very first quilt I ever made, and I gave it away. I think I gave it to my sister-in-law. But it was fun when I was flipping through this book. It just took me back to that very first quilt, and it used to, and this was before Ethan was even born, and so in our old house, his room was my sewing room, and it wasn't anything exciting. It was an empty room, and it had a sewing machine that sat in front of the window. But I remember sitting in there making it on, it was a hot summer day, we had no air conditioning, and I remember sitting up there sewing on it on an old Husqvarna Viking sewing machine that my grandma had given me from her sewing group, and I still have it. The only thing it does is does the straight stitch because one of the cams in the back is broken. But I still have it, and it just took me back to that hot summer day making that quilt. And then my grandma made me this table runner right here, which I put out every September, October. So yeah, it was so fun to flip through that. And I think at some point I would like to make, I have it as a shower curtain, but I would like to make this quilt because I love it. I like the simplicity of it. And I know I'm showing quilting stuff, so I'm sorry. And then she also sent me these little unfinished table toppers that she no longer wanted. And so I will be finishing it, and it will be out and about in all of my winter stuff next year. And then she also sent me this Christmas tree. which she's already basted it. She already did all the hard work. So thank you so much, Michelle. It was so sweet of you, and I'm so sorry that I ended up having to cut it out of my video last week, but I so appreciate you sending that my way. It was so sweet of you. I also did get a tiny little bit of a stash enhancements, and this is Souvenirs of Summer. This is the re-release that Blackbirds just recently did, and this is the one that I have patiently been waiting for 4 years to get my hands on. And I think I bought mine from Hobby House Needleworks, which I love. They always have such great service, and I'm never disappointed. I mean, I'm not usually disappointed anyway, but you know what I mean, just great service. And I am super excited about this one. So I have a piece of, I think it's 36 count granite that I will be using for this. So at some point coming up, I'm going to make that because I would love to have it this year somewhere over here. But I think I'm going to work on it this summer sometime. I don't know that it'll be before the 4th of July, but even if I get it done after, it's something that I definitely would display year round. I do have some quilting Happy Mail to show, but I will hold on to that for a little while, and I will show it in the quilting part of my video. But now let's talk about what I have been working on over the past 2 weeks. So I think I showed this in my last video. I think I had one Wednesday last time. So now I've worked on this 3 Wednesdays, and that is Not Forgotten Farms, Reverend Gordon Squash Bottom. I have been working on this one with Yvette. This is our Wednesday stitch. And we've decided to always have some sort of an autumn, Halloween, fall stitch on Wednesdays. So that is a lot of fun and something to look forward to. But here is my progress. So the only thing that I did not pull to show today are the threads. I ironed all of these last night and got them ready for today, and I just made the decision to leave the threads in the project bags. But I'm stitching this with the called for DMC. I believe it is a 36 count Creek Bed Brown by R&R, and I am stitching it 1/2, and that is my progress. That house is quite the little beast. I did not think that I would still be working on it 2 Wednesdays later, but here I am, still working on it. I still have a ways to go. And one thing about this house is, the top line of windows line up, but the second line of windows do not. One of them is a little, in the pattern, which you can't really see it, but in the pattern, the windows are a little, they're not straight across. So that's one thing that I had to watch for, because I'm used to having windows being like, you know, uniform, and when I got to that bottom row, I ended up messing up, and it's still, it's not exactly perfect, but I've decided to leave it. I think one of the windows is, one side's up higher than the other, and I just decided to leave it because I thought, you know, the windows through the whole chart are that way, or one's bigger than the other ones, and I decided to leave it. It gives it kind of an eclectic look, and I like it. I really, really do. So that has been a lot of fun. I know that a lot of you guys are also stitching along. Becky from Socks for Mom and Christy from Crosshatch Quilts, they're both stitching with Yvette and I, as well as a lot of other people. And I meant to write down all of the names of everybody who I saw posting their Reverend, and I just completely forgot. I meant to do that. But it's really, really cool seeing so many of you guys. You decided to join Yvette and I, and it's awesome. So we've really enjoyed seeing all of the Gordons pop up. The next thing that I have been working on is Liberty's Welcome by Plum Street. And talk about another beast of a house, but here is my progress. So I started this January 1st. This was my New Year, New Start. I'm also stitching this one with Yvette. And I am stitching this on a piece of 36 count Heartland by Picture This Plus with the called for DMC threads, except for the house, which is DMC 648. And I am loving working on this one. And I cannot wait to have it finish. My goal at this point is just to have it done by the end of summer. I'm going to keep going. I mean, it's still going to stay in my rotation, and I'm going to keep going on it until it is done. But at this point, if I can just finish it by the end of the summer, I'll be one happy camper. And it is a piece that will probably stay up year round, because in this house, we are very patriotic. So I am on page 6, which is basically a hate. It is full coverage on that page. And I feel like I've done pretty well. There was like one night that I was working on this where I was paying more attention to the TV than I was stitching. And I probably could have got a little bit farther, but I think all in all, in the 3-day, I guess it would have been, yeah, I had it in my rotation for 3 days. So I think it's not too bad, I've got a porch now, and I've got the middle window started, and yeah, it's gonna take me a while. I mean, it really is. I think I have it in my rotation again next week. And then next is the Scarlet House's Anne Priest 1841. And this one was one that I started back in November on my birthday because I've loved this one for a really long time. It was one of those ones that kept going out of stock every time I was getting ready to purchase it, and then it finally came into stock, and I got it. I snapped that thing up lickety-split, and I started it back on my birthday. I think it's been in my rotation twice since I started, doing it a new way, but this is my progress. And it's been a lot of fun to work on. I'm stitching this on a piece of 36 count Caramel by Seraphim Fabrics. And I love it. Love it, love it, love it. And I think this one is going to be in my rotation, I think next week, I think Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I think it comes back into my rotation. And I'm looking forward to it because I haven't had a chance to work on it. I don't know if I don't have my book. I usually keep track in my, I have one of those needle workers notebooks, and I did not think to bring it, but I feel like, I don't remember if I've worked on it since my last video. I either have or I haven't. The days just kind of run all together. And then my morning stitch has been In Full Glory by Blackbird out of this book. I started this one on last Friday, and this is my progress. So I've been working on this in the mornings. I'm stitching this on a piece of 30 count sunflower seed. I'm not sure who dyes the fabric. I bought it from 123 Stitch, and all it says at the bottom is FBR, and I do not know who that is. So this is a piece of 30 count, and I was supposed to stitch this one 2/2, and I did stitch the border 2/2, but when I got to the flag, which was Monday, I ended up stitching the flag with one strand of floss and didn't realize it until I had the flag and the eagle done, and I decided to just leave it. And so when I got to the house, I decided to stitch the roof with 2 threads, and then with the red part of it with 1. So it's just I've never done that before, and I just decided to see what it would look like. I know lots of people use 1 strand of floss when they are working on, 28, 30, 32, but this is the first time I've done it, and so I wasn't sure how I would like it or how well it would show up, but I think it looks okay. So I'm just going to keep going. The house I'm going to stitch with 1 strand of floss, and then just kind of wherever I'll do it with 2 or 1, and maybe it'll create some sort of texture. But I'm using the called for threads, except I did not have any of the used, I think it's used brick. Yeah, it's Classic Colorworks used brick, and I did not have any in my stash, and I couldn't find it for sale anywhere. So I decided to substitute Ruby Slipper by Gentle Arts. And I like Ruby Slipper. That's one of my favorite reds to use. And the only thing is the eagle's head. I ended up stitching that one with 2 strands of floss, and I've decided to go back over it, or not go back over it. I've decided to back stitch it. So I am loving working on that. And then the last is Autumn at Hawk-Run Hollow by Carriage House Samplings. In every single one of the videos that I have done where I have showed this and showed the progress, I just say Autumn at Hawk-Run Hollow, but I don't say who the designer is. And maybe it's because the Hawk-Run Hollows, everyone knows who they are designed by, but every video I just say Autumn at Hawk-Run Hollow, but it's by Carriage House Samplings. And I am stitching this on a piece of 40 count vintage country mocha with the DMC conversion, except for the block I am currently working on, which is the 3rd one, and I have changed out a bunch of the threads. I was trying to go for, I wanted to capture the sort of mustard color on the salt box house that is in that block. And I think I've gotten pretty close to it. I don't know if you'll be able to see it that far away. But I think I've kind of captured it. To me, it looks like it does on the chart cover. So I have been working on this when I started back on it last night, so it will be in my rotation until Saturday, and then Saturday night will be the last time I work on it for a couple of weeks. So this one is there's gonna be progress on it, but it will be very slow progress. And I'm stitching it 1/2 on 40 count. So I love it. It's a lot of fun. I like the Hawk-Run Hollow series, and I have several, and I'm not allowed to start one until I finish this one. I have to finish at least this one. I also have Halloween that has been started, but I told myself that I am not allowed to start any of them because I really do want to start the houses of Hawk-Run Hollow, but I cannot until I finish this one. So at some point, someday, I will have it finished, and it'll just rotate in and out of my rotation. I've had people comment, if you've had something, that long in your rotation, that you obviously don't love it, but I do. And the only reason why I haven't, worked on it between like when I, last picked it up and until this year was just because I was busy working on so many other things. There's just so many things I want to stitch. And sometimes something just calls to you and you just put down whatever you're working on and you pick it up, and before you know it, you got some whips going in your mocking basket. And but I've never not wanted to work on this. I've always it's always been that I've always wanted to work on it, and so I'm just glad that I'm finally able to. And yes, the progress will be very slow. Some of the blocks obviously will take longer than others, but yeah, I've never not wanted to work on it, and I definitely don't want to set it aside because I do love it. So I did have a couple of finishes over the past 2 weeks. I also have gotten a lot of questions about Olga's stocking and hats off to Uncle Sam. Have I finished those? When will I finish those? And originally I had planned on working on them last weekend. I was going to get both of them done so that way I would have them to show in this video. But unfortunately, with the weather being so nice, I've been outside for the majority of the 2 weeks. And so that's taken me away from working on, everything, quilting, cross stitching. So my hope is I have everything for both of those projects. And my hope is that in these next 2 weeks, because it is supposed to rain over the weekend, so my hope is that in these next 2 weeks, I will be able to sit down and I will be able to get those finished and have those to show you guys. I'm anxious to get them done too. But in my last video, I showed Threadwork Primitives Gray House, and this was my morning stitch. And I loved working on this one, and I finished it. And I finished it last week, and I love it. I had so much fun working on this one. And I decided to, you had the option, of course, of changing the date, but I liked it saying established, 1799. I love colonial America. I love history, and I just liked it. I just liked the way the whole thing looked. I didn't want to change a thing about it. I stitched this with the called for DMC, and it's stitched 1/2 on 32 count, light cappuccino. So if you watch my last video, I kept calling this something else. I kept calling the linen something else. I must have done it like 4 times, but it is light cappuccino by R&R. And it was, I think it was a scrap linen that Dora had sent me. She sent me a box last year, and it was full of scrap linen. And so this was one of the pieces. And I also think last time I said, when I got it done, I was going to spray it with some antiquing spray and grunge it up a little bit. But when I got it done, I loved it just as it was. So I did put it into a frame when it was done. I laced it. And it's laced over a piece of mat board and 2 pieces of batting. And then I had this old frame. One of my friends gave me this big box of wooden frames that she no longer wanted. So I pulled one of the frames, I painted it black, and then I took some sandpaper and I roughed it up to give it that, rusty, crusty look I love. And then I finished it. It's not the best. I don't have any of that paper that people, that framers put over this. I don't have any of that. So it's just, yeah, it's fine. And I can't think what these things are called, but framers use them when they're, it goes into the wood and it tacks down the back. And then this we had to pull off of another frame, and these are staples that also had come off of the other frame too. But I like it. I think it turned out really, really good. And I think I kind of got it straight. I'm still, I've laced several of my pieces now, and I'm planning on, and I don't know if I'm insane or not, but my Anniversaries of the Heart, I'm planning on framing that one myself. I'm going to go and they have frames at frames that you can get at Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to go pick out one the next time I go. And I'm going to get the mat board, and I'm going to frame it myself. So we'll see how it goes. I'm probably crazy. It's such a big piece, but, I figure if I can save myself a whole bunch of money, that's more money that I can, buy linen with. So, I think I've framed a couple of things myself, and I think I'm getting a little bit better, about depth perception and how to fiddle with it to get it to, after you lace it, you kind of, you manipulate it a little bit to get it straight. And I like it. It's fun. It's sort of like when you're making a quilt and you get to the end and you've sewn the binding on, and now you're flipping it over to the other side to hand tack it down. It kind of reminds me of that. It's sort of like the binding is the framing. I also have several pieces that I finished previously. And I had done a Priscilla 5 finish, and then I don't even think I had them out last year. But I've decided I'm going to take all of those apart and I'm going to frame them. So I'll have all of those to show, because right now they're just hanging out in this drawer right here. And I didn't have them out last year, and I don't even think I put them out the year before. Because the way I finish them, I just don't feel looks good with my decor anymore. And so I'm going to take them apart and I'm going to reframe them. All right, and the last finish that I had was Feast of Friendship by Blackbird Designs. I was so close to a finish in my last video, and I think I worked on it over that weekend, and I finished it on Tuesday. Did I finish it this last Tuesday or the Tuesday before? I think it was the Tuesday before. Maybe. I just recently finished this. But here it is. So this is a Feast of Friendship stitched on 36 count Heartland by Picture This Plus with various threads. Most of the called for, but in the house, instead of stitching. So I've always, for some reason, even though when I've looked at the chart, I've always said that the house had 4 colors in it. The house only had 3. And one of the colors, which I had in my stash, was Tin Roof. And then of the 2 other blue colors that go into the house, I substituted Freedom by Gentle Arts and Midnight by Gentle Arts. And I think they look really, really good together with the, is it Tin Roof or Tin Bucket? Let me look here. It is Tin Bucket. I might have just said Tin Roof, but Tin Roof is one of the colors in the house. And then Freedom and Midnight are the ones that I substituted because I did not have Classic Colorworks Blue Corn or Uniform Blue, which is by Gentle Arts. So instead, I substituted. But that is the only substitutions that I made. I had all of the other threads in my stash. So I love it. This was a stitch along that started last fall. It was hosted by Lori Holt and Christy from Crosshatch Quilts. And the hashtag was Lori and Christy and Friends SAL. And I can't believe I finally remembered it. Every video where I showed this, I could not remember what the hashtag was. And now that I'm done, now I can finally remember. Because that's just the way my thread unravels, I guess. Anyway, I've had a lot of people ask, now that I'm done with Feast of Friendship, what will be my new start that will replace it? And originally I was going to be really good and I was going to go into the whip basket and I was going to pull out American Farmhouse by the Scarlet House. But all I could think about was that it had that big chunk of grass, and I've been working on grass on Liberty's Welcome, and I just did not want to work on any more grass. So instead, Stacy Nash, back in February sometime, she re-released, or not re-released, in her Etsy shop. Well, I guess it is technically a re-release. But Stacy Nash in her Etsy shop put up Cherry Hollow Farms. And for the longest time, it was only available as, I think it was a kit that you got from somewhere. I don't know if it was part of a retreat. I can't quite remember, but the only place you could really find it was in the kit form on eBay. And I was never quick enough to get it. But then when I saw that she had listed the PDF for sale in her shop, I jumped on it. And I think that was right after Ice Mageddon. And I felt like I deserved it. I got a piece of a 36 count beige linen by Weeks Dye Works to stitch it on. And I also picked up all of the Call for Colors, which I don't have on a floss ring just yet. I meant to, but there they all are. So I'm excited to start that one. I think it comes up into my rotation next week. So I'm looking forward to that because this is a chart that I have been wanting to work on for a long time. And I know exactly where it's going to go. It's going to go across the room above my quilt ladder when it is done. So hopefully I can get that one done. I'm guessing I'll be working on it all through the summer, and then hopefully sometime in the fall I will be able to get that finished. So, but I was very, very happy when I got it, and I had to, of course, break my, no new charts rule, and I think I even texted you and told her that I had bought it, and she told me I deserved it after the Ice Mageddon. So, well, as far as all of the cross stitching goes, oh, you know what? I forgot something. So in my last video, I went all through the video, and here's my trench bowl. I went through the whole entire video, went and showed you what I had finished, what I had fully finished, and I meant to reach behind me and grab this. And so for the past 2 weeks, it has been mocking me because it's just been sitting there and I have not shown it. And I even had a couple people ask me about it because they could see it sitting behind me in the trench bowl. And they knew I had finished it and they didn't know why I didn't show it. And it was just simply because I forgot. So this is Project Quarantine by With Thy Needle and Thread. And this was my morning stitch several weeks ago. And I was able to finish it, and I fully finished it into a pillow. I used some reproduction fabric that Yvette had sent me in the wonderful box of fabric. I also attached some of my grandma's vintage buttons that she had given me, and I think it's perfect. And then over here, because when I showed it finished, I hadn't added the thread yet. So I put it in there and I just threaded it through the needle that you stitch. And I love this finish. I do have it quite a bit stuffed because I do like my pillows to be, it's not perfect, it's lumpy bumpy. I tried my best not to, but or I tried my best to get it smooth, but there is a couple of places where it's a little bit bumpy. Originally, I was gonna pop the stitches because I left the hole open here and that's where I stuffed it, and then I whip stitch it closed. Originally, I was gonna take it all out and try again, but I decided to leave it. So I love it. I think this is a piece of 36 count summer khaki that I had sprayed with the Primitive Gatherings antiquing spray. And I had somebody ask in this section here where it is the over one, they wanted to know if I did a full stitch or half stitch, and I did full stitches. And I also didn't use any magnification on this. I did it while I was sitting at the kitchen table. And I don't really have, because my magnifier that I have clips to my lap stand, and I don't really have any place when I'm sitting at the kitchen table to clip my magnifier, so I had to do it I also had to take my glasses off because when I'm working on small pieces, I can't wear my glasses for some reason. I think it's because I've had those glasses for 3 years now and the prescription is old and my eyes have changed and it's time to get some new glasses. So now, as far as all of the cross stitching goes, that is all I have to share in this video. I am going to talk about quilts next, so if that's not something you're interested in seeing, this is a great stopping off point. And of course, I will be back in 2 weeks, and I hope you get tons and tons of stitching done. And if you want to know what I'm up to in between the videos, you're always welcome to follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I will put that information down below. But if you're on Instagram, I'm just Pumpkin Hollow Quilts on Instagram, and my Facebook page is Pumpkin Hollow Quilting. So, but I will put a link to both of those down below. And other than that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull the quilts that I have been working on, and I am going to show those now. I had a little bit more quilting to bring over than I thought I did. I thought over the past 2 weeks I hadn't really got a lot of time to work on anything, but I'm actually surprised. So in my last video, I showed this pattern, and I was working on this quilt out of Civil War reproduction fabrics. This is Stars and Stripes by Thimble Blossoms, and I kept getting them mixed up with Thimbleberries. It's Thimble Blossoms. You can buy this as a PDF from their online shop, which if I can remember, I will put a link to it down below. But one of the things I forgot to say, and that I did get asked, was, is this pattern beginner friendly? And yes it is. In fact, if you like to sew American flags, if you love, if you're very patriotic, if you love this, and this is a very, very, very easy, good beginner quilt because it is all straight sewing. The directions are very well written, and yes, I definitely would recommend this one as a beginner quilt. But I finished it, and I think I had the first 3 rows sewn together, and I was going to be very clever and I was going to get the whole quilt done and quilted and bound and showed in this video, and I didn't get a chance to get it quilted, but I do have it finished. So here it is. So I did this out of all Civil War reproduction fabrics that I picked up from the quilt shop. And I love it. I love, love, love it. Such a beautiful quilt. And I love all of the fabrics together. It just makes me so happy. And here it is. I haven't decided yet how I want to quilt it. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I haven't quilted it yet, because the quilt that I had made previously out of this pattern, the one that I sold the year before last, I quilted clouds all over it. And I don't think I want clouds on this one. I want something else. I just can't quite decide. I did get a question about the type of quilting machine I have. It is a Handy Quilter Sweet 16. It does not have a computer on it. I am the computer. So whatever, so I do free motion quilting. I could probably take the time to learn how to do panographs, but for whatever reason, it's like my brain doesn't like being told what it needs to do. And instead it likes to do its own thing. So that's been a little bit of a battle. So I do all sorts of free motion quilting, and yeah, that's how I do it. The backing fabric that I picked out for the quilt is this one. This is by Marcus Brothers. I think it was called Savannah? No, Blue Meadow. It's called Blue Meadow. And Blue Meadow by Laura Beringer. And there it is right there. So that is going to be the backing. Of course, the backing is quite a bit bigger, but it's already out on my quilt machine, and this was a piece I cut off of it. So that is what the backing will look like when it's done, and hopefully in my next video I will have it to show you all finished. And then this particular quilt, I've shown this before. I think I showed it last spring, but it's made a couple of appearances and some pictures that I've posted on Instagram. And then I think that I used it as the photo backdrop for my last video. And I've had a lot of people ask me to show the whole quilt again. And that is Sweet Redbird by Renee Plains. And she is Liberty Star, is her company. And I got this chart at my local quilt shop, and I do not know if you can still get it anywhere. I know I've had a couple of people ask, but that was earlier on, and I can't remember what the reason why. I don't remember if the designer has retired. I'm not really sure what the reason was, but here is the quilt. So it's not very big. It was a lot of fun. This is fabric from Kim Deal, out of her line from, I think it came out last year. But I love it. It was hanging in my dining room. And I don't know if you can see the quilting, but I just did swirls. I love swirls. That's like my favorite motif. I love it. And I put it on a lot of my quilts. And I know, you know, some people get probably tired of seeing all the swirls, but I love them. I love them so much, and I put them on a lot of stuff. I really like the way that they look. You know, they're very elegant and fun, and you can make them as big or as small as you want to, and you can make them as close together as you want to, or as far apart as you want to. It's just one of my favorite motifs. So I have continued on the Temecula Quilt album. I was finally able to get the 5th month finished. And I fell a little bit behind in all of the, well, I have 2 block of the months, but I fell a little bit behind in it because I was cutting out the Jane Austen quilt. And I've had a lot of questions about when I will be starting that one, and I will be starting it very, very soon. I don't feel comfortable sitting down to start working on it until I can really pay attention to what I'm doing, because I do not want to mess up on it. And so there's just been a lot of stuff going on. There's just been no time to sit down and really focus on it, but I promise you'll see it one of these days coming up soon. But here is the first block. Love this one. I love this one so much. I love it. And then there was this one. And I love all the colors. And this one. And this one, which I believe this block was called T for Temecula. So those are all of the 5th month's blocks. And I'm hoping to start the 6th month here like next week. I usually, what I'll do is at night I will go through and I will cut all of the blocks out, and then just kind of as the week goes, I will just grab one and assemble it. And then I know I talked about this earlier on, but Temecula was doing on the 2nd Tuesday of every month, they call it Sewing Bee, and they have a block that they release for free, and you make 4 of the block, and at the end of the year sometime you'll have 48 blocks to put into a quilt. So I decided to participate in it. I am behind this month's block, but I did finish April's, and you just had to make 4 of these. And I think one of mine, for whatever reason, turned out a smidge smaller than it was supposed to. And so I might have to go redo that one. So I finished that, and then hopefully I can get the April block finished, which were bow ties. So also over the past 2 weeks, I got my Forevermore block of the month. Month 4 came in the mail. And so now I'm officially 2 months behind, and I need to find some time to sit down and get these cut out and get them made, because I don't want to fall too far behind, because I would like to have it done by the end of the year when the block of the month ends. But those blocks, you have to really pay attention. There's a lot of little fiddly pieces, and you have to be paying attention. You can go like years and years and not participate in a block of the month of any kind, and then just like that, you're like, all the block of the months, you just want to do them all. So that being said, Lori Holt, Bee in My Bonnet, she is doing a sew along, and it started last Monday, and it is the Red Sampler Quilt sew along. I think that's I'm pretty sure it's the Red Sampler Quilt sew along, and it's a free one, and all you need are there's 4 or 5 books, and I have all of her books, but she is taking the blocks from the Farm Girl Vintage 1 and 2, and I should have brought them in here. It's the Christmas book that she did, and then oh my gosh, what is the other one? The Spelling Bee. And then there's the Great Granny Score. I will list all of the books down below, and I should have brought them, and I totally didn't. And I think it's because one of the books has some blocks in it for another quilt, and I was afraid they would get lost. But I will remember next time to have them with me, or you can go to Lori's Facebook page or her blog, and she will have all the information there and show you which books have the blocks in them. Anyways, so she started doing the Red Sampler sew along, and there's been 2 weeks worth of instruction, like the blocks you're supposed to make. And I managed to finish the first week's blocks. I have to do this week's blocks. I'm like butchering this really bad. So when I saw that she was doing this, and I decided I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it out of reproduction fabrics. Now I don't have like a big stash of like red and cream reproduction, but I can get along for a little while, and then I will just I will like collect them little bits at a time, because some of the blocks you don't need very much, and then other blocks you'll need, quite a bit more. But this is one of the blocks from the first week, and I think this particular block was out of is it the Vintage Christmas book? I'll scroll it, or I'll put it here. So this one came out of that one, and this came out of the second Farm Girl Vintage 2. And again, I'll just put a picture of the book right here, or I'll scroll it. it depends on how I'm feeling after I get all my gardening done and I'm editing this. And then this one came out of her very first Farm Girl vintage. And I can remember making this particular block for the quilt that I made, because it's a sunflower block. And so I did it to look exactly like a sunflower. So I'm doing them all out of reproduction fabrics, and I'm loving them. And my hope is that I'm not going to fall far behind. I need to get the other. I need to pull some fabrics for the three for this week. And I'm taking my grandma to the quilt shop tomorrow, so I'm going to pick up some red fat quarters and some cream fat quarters. And then maybe I'll wait until I get those. And I'm probably not going to have any time to work on them tonight because I'll be editing the video anyway. So, but that is, so my hope is that I'll be able to keep up. I think it runs until sometime in July. And one of like the first 5 quilts that I ever made was a red and white quilt. And it was on our bed for years and years. And that was back when I was fairly new to quilting. I didn't realize that there were different qualities of fabric, and so I went to Joann's and I had bought some like really cheap red fabric, and that fabric is now falling apart from the quilt. So this one will kind of make up for the quilt that I'm gonna have to like cut up and do something else with. But anyway, so I'm excited. I love red quilts. Something truly, truly, truly amazing came. I mean, it's just, I'm still a little bit in shock, and I'm like flabbergasted. There's like all these words that just want to like come up and just out, but I don't know how to, that's just like all of the good words. But in my last video, I had a lot of questions about the Jane Austen quilt, and a lot of you guys, you said, well, I'm a beginner, and that's a little bit out of my, I'm not there yet. And I felt like I really needed to stress the importance of that fabric lines do not stay around forever. And that if it's a quilt that you knew that you wanted to make and you want to have it in your life at some point, you want to make it and have it, that you need to get it, because the fabric lines won't be around forever. And then I told the story of the Civil War tribute quilt line that had come out back in 2010, 2011, and how at that time my grandma and I were on Shop Hop, and I had saved up because I was just about ready to finish my Hocus Pocusville quilt, which hung up here in September and October. And so we went shop hopping, and I had saved up so that I could buy the fabric because I wanted to do scrappy. And a lot of the fabrics in Hocus Pocusville are Civil War reproduction, because I always, even though it wasn't what the cool kids were doing, or at least the cool kids I was following or that I know in real life, I still would sneak in little bits of it here and there. And that was one of the quilts that a lot of it's Civil War reproduction, or it is like a 30s reproduction, or like Halloween 50s reproduction. Anyway, so when we went to the very first shop on the Shop Hop, I saw the Civil War tribute quilt line. I saw all of the fabric, and they had a fat quarter bundle, and I picked it up, and it was basically for the exact amount of money minus 1 cent that I had in my wallet to buy the fabrics for Hocus Pocusville. And my grandma, ever sensible, said, Olivia, this is what you need to buy. That's not what you need to buy. You can save up for it, and we'll get it in 6 months when we come back. And I was like, okay. 6 months later, I come back, fabric line gone. And I went up and I had asked the shopkeeper, do you have any of this left? And she said no, because they did the Civil War tribute block of the month, and all of the fabric had went towards that, and people had bought what was left over for their backings. And then she showed me the quilt, and I was way too late to participate in the block of the month. I was very upset, very upset. Well, I told the story, and it was like last week, I think it was like Monday or Tuesday, there was an email that popped up, and I was talking to my brother on the phone, and I was reading the email, and I'm like, I ended up having to read the email like 3 times because I'm like, there's no way that I'm reading these words on the screen. And Regina had contacted me and said that she wanted to send me the Civil War tribute Block of the Month. I'm like dying. I'm like I am dying. I'm dying. I'm dying. I just can't believe it. I've been just over the moon. Every single day I pull this out like 4 times a day, and I look through all of the months, and I'm just like, oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. So she had this in her stash. The Block of the Month started in December of 2010, and it went all through 2010 in the hopes that everybody would have it finished that in 2011, which 2011 started the 150th anniversary of the Civil War. And there were 3 Block of the Months, which this was before I was even on social media or any of that. But there was Civil War Tribute was the first one, then it was Civil War Journal, and Civil War Medleys. But I remember that when I saw this quilt hanging in the quilt shop, the lady said that they had done the Block of the Month, and each month is a battle that had taken place during the Civil War, which killed me even more because I'm a huge Civil War buff. And oh my gosh, I'm just like, I just can't even believe it. I cannot believe it. And it was so sweet of Regina to send that all the way to me. And I'm just like, I can't even believe it. I still can't believe it. Every day I come and I look at these blocks because I just cannot believe that I'm like holding it. But Regina sent me this beautiful card and her sweet note, and she's very happy that she was able to send it to somebody who would love it, and I will love it forever. Trust me. Trust me. Yes. So, the first month is in here. This is Fort Sumter. So that was where the very first shots of the American Civil War were fired. And then it goes from there. So the second month is the first Manassas and Bull Run battles. So they have some of them have 2 battles in them. So you make several of these blocks. And you make them in different sizes. So this one you make 4 15-inch blocks. And then this is the Battle of Shiloh, which this battle is truly sad. And then this is Antietam and Sharpsburg. I'm sorry, there's a glare. And, I'm making myself finish Temecula first because it was really hard not to just like rip into this thing. But I can't have that many Block of the Months going at the same time. So as soon as I finish the Temecula quilt album, which I'm almost at the halfway point, and I'm going to start this one. So I think that this one is going to be my fall project. And then this is Fredericksburg. And all of the fabrics are by Judy Rothermel, and I love her. And she's also the designer who did Civil War Journals, and Civil War Medley. And this is Battle of the Ironclads with that fabric. All of the fabric is absolutely gorgeous. And this one is the Siege at Vicksburg. And this one you make 8 12-inch blocks. Oh, that was showing up really good. Love, 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 love. And then this one, oh my gosh, this one is Gettysburg. And if you followed me for any length of time, you know that Gettysburg is the battlefield that if I can't go to any of the other ones, Gettysburg is the #1 battlefield that I want to go to. So much history on that battlefield. Yes, 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 yes. And you make 4 12-inch blocks. This is the Chickamauga campaign, and you make 1 12-inch and 1 18-inch block. Oh, and I forgot to show the fabric. This is the fabric for Gettysburg. Yummy, yummy. Yummy, yummy. I love all of these. And then month 10 is Battle of the Wilderness. And this battle just kind of took place when two armies just kind of like, uh-oh. And then this one's Sherman's March to the Sea and Appomattox. And you make 136. This is the middle block. And Sherman's March to the Sea is how all of my relatives' records were burned to a crisp. And why I can't find anything after 1865. Because they lived right in his path. And then this one is the Battle of Franklin. And the Battle of Franklin is the one, it goes all the way around the quilt. And so this is the border. And the fabrics. Gorgeous. Oh, and these are the fabrics in case I forgot to show them for the middle block. So gorgeous. And then she also sent me the delicious backing fabric. Even my husband was like, wow, that's really good looking fabric. I like that. Oh my gosh. I can't even. Like when I first opened up the box, I was shaking because I just cannot believe that it's here. I cannot wait. So I'm going to finish the Temecula album quilt, and then this one I will start. And this is the one that I'm going to work on all fall, and I cannot wait. Okay, so I had to, my phone came up with a message saying I had run out of room on my phone. So I only have a little bit of room left, but my plan is to, and I don't remember what I was saying, but if I'm repeating myself, I'll edit it. But anyway, my plan is to work on this quilt in the fall of the year. And I am so very, very, very excited that I have it. I never in a million years ever thought that I would ever have like any of the fabric, let alone the block of the month, because I had completely missed out on it. And I'm just so grateful that Regina was watching my video and that she decided to send me the beautiful, beautiful quilt. It was it was so absolutely generous of her, and I've already talked to her. But yeah, thank you so much. I am so excited, and I promise you will see this quilt come to life. I'm planning on working on it very, very soon, and I cannot wait. It's going to be so much fun, so much fun. And each block has details about the battle and or the battle that it represents. And I'm a huge Civil War buff, so I love all of that stuff anyway. So I'm just, oh my gosh, it was so generous of her. And this community has been absolutely so generous to me. I just can't, I hope that someday I am able to pay it all forward. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm still shaking. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Anyway, guys, since my phone is going to be running out of batteries or storage, I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. And thank you so much for stopping by today. If I have forgotten anything, I'll talk about them in my next video, which will be in 2 weeks. As always, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm Pumpkin Hollow Quilts, or I do have a Facebook page, which is Pumpkin Hollow Quilting. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below, or you can send me an email. It might take me a couple of days to get back to you, and it's just because there's a lot going on. But I will, I promise. And I appreciate you all so much if you've stuck around for this far into the video. I do appreciate it so, so much. And I hope you have a wonderful 2 weeks. And I'm going to go look through all of these again and put them all away and go make lunch for everything, and then go make lunch for everybody, and then go out and continue working on my flower beds. So thank you again for stopping by, and I will see you all again later. Bye.